My name is Frank, but I go by Franky, and my pronouns are he, him. I think, early on in my life, when I was a kid or whatever, I guess, you learn what a boy is and you learn what a girl is, right, when you're, young. And so you kind of, automatically try to start adapting to whatever it is that you are based on what your parents tell you are or whatever you're kind of molded to be, by the world. So early on, I obviously gravitated a lot more towards the typical gay boy story. I kind of gravitated more towards the girly things. I wanted the girly McDonald toys. I love the Spice Girls, all that stuff. And I think there was a period of time where I felt like I needed to suppress that and not show that because that didn't match who I'm assigned to be, which is a boy, which is supposed to like monster trucks and whatever. I don't necessarily use my gender as my identity. I get why people do, and I think it's really important that people do because that ultimately changes the way that society thinks. But I think right now I'm just kind of at a point where I just want to like what I like and be who I am, and I don't really think about am I more of a boy or am I more of a girl, and where do I lie in that spectrum. And there is that pressure within the gay community to be the more masculine you are, the more hot you are, right? And I think those things kind of made me fold into myself a little bit over the last 2 years-ish. I think I noticed that there was a lot more of community around here and in Orlando and different parts of Florida that they were very much all about expressing yourself and not necessarily abiding to those structured ways, you need to be this way to be masculine or this way to be feminine, and you kind of have to pick a side. You can kind of just blend in between. And I think that re-inspired me to kind of come back to this place that I had started at when I was a teenager but never really finished. I love politics, I love social issues and stuff like that, and I think I would love to get involved with that a lot more, but I'm sort of still, like I said, rebirthing who I am in my own head and discovering who I am on my own. And I think it's important to know who you are before you go and try to change the world and help other people, because if you don't know who you are, then ultimately you're going to lose yourself in the middle of trying to help other people. In this day and age, in this time that we're living in, it's really, really, really easy to just constantly move on to the next thing, and it's really easy to forget about what does the things that I do or the things that we all do together, how does that impact culture or pop culture or history in the long run? And so I often think about what am I a part of, and what are we doing as a collective? How is that going to affect the way that people after us do things, or the way that people perceive who we are in the world, right? Don't ever do something unless you feel number one, this is authentically me, and number two, this is going to have a positive change on the world. So important to preserve what we're building now for future generations, to keep it a thing that's happening, to keep it a thing that when people look back 50 years, they'll have all the knowledge and they'll have all of the ways that we were able to transform the gender roles and everything else that we're working on, that they have the blueprint for it. Because if it gets lost, and it can easily get lost in history, and that's the last thing that anybody would ever want.